Yep. So everyone needs to check to see whether they're muted, please. Appreciate it. All right. So let's see. How do I? There you go. So let's just talk really quick. The intention of the mastery program. First is to leave you being masterful in the NUCCA technique as your natural self-expression. And we can talk about mastery. Actually, I'll talk about it a little bit more as we go. But why? Actually, I'll talk about it now. I'll save it. That way we don't have to come back to it later. And in the area to leave you being masterful in the NUCCA technique as your natural self-expression. Why the webinars have been the way that they've been, where we're not just displaying X-rays and talking about. I think it's my echo. Can I get some feedback from someone? Am I the only one hearing the echo? Do I need to do something different?
I was hearing the echo too. Yeah, I'm hearing the echo as well.
All right, I could switch. Let me try a different phone to see if that does anything. Hold on. And then I'll turn off this one. Sorry, everybody, for the technical difficulties before I unplug that one. All right, how's that? Does that still give me an echo? It still does. All right. Well, I don't know what to do differently in order to change that, so I'm going to be talking over myself as I'm going. Is it hard to hear? Is it really hard to hear? Should I call back in? I mean, we didn't have it a little while ago.
It's okay.
No, it's okay.
Okay. All right. Well, this is going to be an interesting time here listening to that. So I'm sorry. Let me get back to just say again. So the nature of this, in the first area here, leaving being masterful. So there's a particular quality of mastery, and when you take a look at what's going on in the area of mastery, it's more than just what somebody has learned. It's more than just the net effect of information that's been stored, and now it's being spit out in a particular way. And that's why there's good news is in NUCCA we have different ways, and I told you that we'll also get at least 1 or 2 webinars, and we'll see if we could get more that actually have that type of linear information on it. Because obviously you have linear information has value. It's where it gets applied. But why we're in the conversation, the particular type of conversation we're in regards to fulfilling on the intention of the mastery program, is to leave you in a space that you're able to generate that level of mastery that makes a difference for you and your patients in the course of your practice. And so how mastery sometimes looks, if you're watching, I saw the French Open is being played right now. If you watch, the tennis players, very few of them are, while they've practiced their serve, they've practiced their drive, they've practiced all these different things, when the ball is coming to them from the other side of the net, very often they're actually creating things that sometimes they've never done before, just in that space of mastery. And if you're not all on, there's a website or a Facebook page, for the NUCCA Mastery Program. If you're not already on it, I really request that you actually get on there, so we could use that as a base to actually forward what we're up to. But there, I posted this kid. He's got 2 yo-yos going at the same time. I mean, this young guy, there's all these places we could see mastery, and what people are doing, and when a surgeon is operating on a patient, all of a sudden something opens up that wasn't supposed to open up. It's not within the textbook, and all of a sudden they take on being a particular way of whatever it's going to take to save that patient. That's mastery in action, and all of us have developed mastery in a particular area of our life, up to this point, in some area. For I know Jason, who we work together in the office. He developed mastery in the area of running and track. I could talk about Daiki. He's developed mastery in a number of areas, in his life prior to chiropractic, and he's doing, he's absolutely doing phenomenal in this work as well as Jason is. But so we, when I take a look at, my youth, I actually worked on a lot of cars. I had mastery in the area of automobiles. There are things I could do that people would just kind of marvel at, and so we all have mastery in particular areas, and it's more than the effect of just what was presented to us in linear knowledge. So that's why we're always in this space of gathering distinctions and being in the space of an inquiring into what's been unseen, because that's where mastery shows up. It's not just from what we know. It comes from the area that we didn't know that we'd even know it. And you've all had experiences where that's occurred in your life. I know you have. So that's why we're doing what we're doing in the way that we're doing it. So number 2 in the intention of the mastery program is to be engaged in conversation for mastery, got it, purpose and progress through to completion of your NUCCA board certification. So the NUCCA board certification, the certification program, is the playground where we get to practice some of these aspects, the distinctions that will open up that doorway to mastery. 3 is to create structures and support for the leaders of the NUCCA organization, and that's you guys. I've said it before, I'll say it again. You guys are, everyone on this call, you are the leaders not in the future, but you are the leaders now within the organization. That's why you've put yourself into this program, because that's who you are. And 4th is to generate a future of unprecedented growth for our families, patients, NUCCA, and the possibility that the expression of health has on the world. So that's the intention of the mastery program, and all of this is actually perfect correlate for what we're going to be talking about today and generating in today's conversation. I think, now, Dr. Lipinski, Craig, this would actually be a good time to kind of, if you wouldn't mind, sharing some of, just what you've been seeing, working with some of the doctors, just what's been your experience? I mean, here we are, we're in the 3rd webinar. It's kind of a, we've been at this for just several months, several short months. What's been your experience so far?
Well, can you hear me, Marshall?
I can, yes. And I'm going to mute myself, actually.
This process has definitely caused and I'm encouraged in looking at a whole bunch of different people that have really upped the level of engagement, participation in this process. And I'm looking at a handful of names of our attendees here tonight, and I'm just looking at it, and I can look at Dr. Dykey. I mean, he sent two sets of films in a short period of time, and I mean, just significant improvement over, let's say, a couple years back. There's a whole bunch of people on here that are just really engaged in the process. I saw Dr. Landholm's name up there, super engaged in the process, sending a set of films, and a lot of really good work, and then, altering this and tweaking that and just being on it. And there's just a lot of, there's a significant engagement. It seems like the moment I get done reviewing a set of films, there's a person or two who's got their other, another set of films right back again. And so there is definitely, I think through this process, there is an increased level of activity, because it's just, it's people walking in what they already know that they are, and they're just getting engaged in the process, and I think it's been super beneficial.
That's great. It's really exciting, actually. And I've had a chance to talk to some of the other doctors, whether or not it's Dr. Zabelin and Dr. Flory, and that they're reviewing films from the submissions within the from the other doctors that are in certification, and they're just blown away by the participation, the quality, the attitude. I mean, it's just been phenomenal. So thanks for sharing that. Let's go to kind of the intention of tonight's webinar. So first is to create a context that leaves you empowered and in action, regardless of the circumstances. So I'm just going to say it again, just because you got to get it. It's not just about reading it. It's like when you actually read something, you get what it is. And I actually read that in a way where I didn't fully, even though I wrote it, I didn't fully get when I read it what impact that has on me. So to create a context that leaves you empowered and in action, regardless of the circumstances. And second is to raise the bar on who we are for all the participants in the mastery program. And so I'll even read that one again. To raise the bar on who we are for all the participants in the mastery program. And well, before some of you were able to log on for for whatever reason, we started talking at around at 8. And what I mentioned is there's 53 participants, and when we sent out 3 different emails looking to get a sense of who's going to be on the webinar tonight and then who's available, and what would be brilliant is that we had 53 responses. Going, yes, this number of people will be there, this number of people won't, and 3 is kind of just, again, this is not a conversation about right or wrong, so don't hear that. It's when you take it's like a race car going around the track. They're monitoring all these different things, and whether it's drag racing or this or that, they've got all this data. Actually, I know more about drag racing actually because I've been in the trailers because of Tony Schumacher. I've been in trailers when they're analyzing the information. They're doing all that. I mean, there's so many things going on. There's so much data, and they're just looking at the data, going, okay, how can we improve on this? How can we tweak? The cars are already going over 300 miles an hour. But they're looking to see how can we tweak another 1/10 of a second off here, another 1/10 of a second off there. So they're really fine-tuning something that's already working in an intention to bring more wholeness, more performance out of it. And that's really fun. We talked about the intent, integrity, using it, as a tool, and integrity representing wholeness, which leads to workability, which leads to an opportunity for performance. So they're looking at, how do we get that opportunity, that increase the workability, and for greater opportunity for performance. And given the intention of the mastery program that we just kind of went over, I could go back, but we just went over it as far as the different things, to leave you being masterful, to be engaged in a conversation for mastery, to create structures for support as leaders of leaders of NUCCA, and to generate a future of unprecedented growth for our families, patients, NUCCA, and the possibility that the expression of health has on the world. That is huge. That's nothing small. And what I say is that there is room for us to increase who we are being in such a way, and I know I'm talking to the people who are on this call, and again, and unfortunately as humans, it's like keep talking to the dog loudly. All of a sudden he thinks he's like done something wrong, even if he hasn't done something wrong. And we got some people really need to mute. I know that. So we got 53 participants, 33 responses, and I don't actually care how many are attending. The whole thing is being whole and complete in our communication. And I think that there's room within our groups, there's room for who we are for one another, to continually, like those guys in the trailers of the race cars, continue to look to see what can we tweak, where can we bring more wholeness to the mastery program and its participants in such a way that that future that we stand for of unprecedented growth, that future that we stand for as leaders in the organization, the future that we stand for making a difference with healthcare in the world, that there's room to tweak it. That's all I'm saying. And what it looks like for each and every one of you is going to be different. And I'm just inviting you to take a look at is there anything that's missing? Not from somebody needs to mute again. Is there anything missing in regards to, thank you, is there anything missing in regards to something that, while it might look like somebody else's fault, while, whatever it is, that you could bring something else to the party to really have this thing rock. So, we're going to be probably bringing this up because it's like a constant level of vigilance. And you can apply this to your practice. You can apply it to how is it that we take care of patients? Where is it that we're missing the level of care? And we could talk about the reduction of the subluxation, or just how is it that we're greeting our patients? How is it that what are we leaving our patients with as they're walking out the door? Are they 100% understanding the reason why they're here, the difference that getting their subluxations corrected, will make in their lives? Are they looking at their families because that's part of the wholeness of their health, right? So this could be applied anywhere. For this conversation, we're going to keep taking a look at how can we make a difference, within the participation within the different groups and everybody in the mastery course. Because I could promise you, you put in that, you kind of go that extra mile for somebody else, and it'll come up in the rest of this conversation. It'll make a difference in your life, I promise you. And if it doesn't, you call me and let me know, and I'll reframe it in a way that you'll see, wow, that really did make a difference in my life. So, out of curiosity, since we haven't muted everyone, and I know there are a few people that communicated that they'd like to share. I'd just like to hear from one or two of you, and then we're going to take a look at the homework. What's opened up for you as a participant in the mastery program so far? Who would like to share? And I'm going to leave it up to Mary Pat to figure out how to manage that.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, good. So
who is this?
This is Philip Shallow.
Hi, Philip.
Hi. So I basically put myself up against the wall and said, okay, what are you going to change? And so far what I've changed is my scheduling. And so now I'm scheduling an hour and a half for a first adjustment. And I've started using my left hand again. And I haven't used it for many years because it hurts my right thumb to use my left hand to adjust. And what I've discovered is that I'm getting way better corrections. And I figure, okay, let's keep building on this and figure out how to not make the thumb hurt. There was something else. And I've opened up Tuesday and Friday afternoons for first adjustment, so I don't feel pressured.
Cool. That's outstanding. Out of curiosity, what and whether or not you see it, so that's great. Thanks for sharing that. And so, was there something behind that you saw that was missing? What was where did that insight come out of that you saw this would make a difference for you?
Well, I figured the scheduling problem is necessary because I have a hard time managing my own emotions in the office. And I feel like I need to move, there's this little voice in my head saying, push, push, push. And you were aware of that 14 years ago when I started my practice. You said, you have time. And I feel like I don't have time. And that's just a natural thing for me. And so what I'm trying to do is set up a context where there's absolutely no way I can't say that I don't have time. Or there's no way that I can say that I don't have time.
Got it. That's really great. So you created some structure, and just as a note, you might still hear that little voice in your head because it's just automatic that tells you that you don't have time.
Right.
Right. And you get to set up your structure. You actually created time in spite of the little voice going, you don't have time. Brilliant. Brilliant. Anybody else would like to jump in? It's not just about sharing breakthroughs, and I want to open up for somebody else to share. Then we're going to look at the homework from last week. But anyone having a breakdown? Okay. All right. Let's go.
Comment on that. If I could comment on that.
Sure.
I noticed in researching musicians' injuries that in a lot of orchestras, musicians are reluctant to share that they have an injury because they think their job will be at risk or somebody will think poorly of them. And so it's not unusual for us to jump into that mindset.
Yeah. I have breakdowns all the time. You want me to start sharing my breakdowns? We'll have to have an extra hour. But all right, let's go into taking a quick look at last month's homework. So, and I'm going to open and we're going to open this up for sharing too. So, number one is practice the first foundational principle: being a person of integrity. Who saw something in doing that?
Actually, I had something come up.
Okay, who's that?
This is Finley.
Oh, hi, Finley.
Hey, so my, I guess for me, practicing the first foundational principle, I had a patient who had a very, we'll just call it an obscure upper cervical anatomy situation here, and you know, I didn't think I was going to be able to get all of, you know, the best correction possible. I didn't think I really stood a chance, but at the same time, I also remember that, you know, the goal was to be consider something unreasonable and take a shot at it. And just be unreasonable, and you know, and see how it works out. So I must have gone after this thing and spent you know, upwards of you know, the patient's down on the table and then up for reanalysis. We went around about this for, you know, upwards of an hour, and after one wave of post X-rays, I wasn't happy with it. And then I did a second set of post X-rays after another 30 to 45 minutes trying to get this thing. Thank goodness this patient was at the end of the day. And then, you know, I ultimately sent the patient home and then went back and looked at the second post. And I knew that the anatomy was obscure. I knew that I was up against something that wasn't going to see an optimal correction anyway, and I still refused to let it go. I ended up calling the patient back and said, I'm going to need to see you because I'm just not completely satisfied with the, you know, with the results that have been generated thus far. I need you back in the office within, you know, a day or two, whatever fits in your schedule. And so she was surprised, but she did it. And she said, well, I've been feeling good. And I said, that's great, but the X-ray data says I need to keep going. And so I do. And ultimately, I get only slightly better measurements at the last post. And that's when I'm basically convinced that I'm not going to get anything else. And so you know, walking the patient out, everything like that, and then, you know, they're asking, okay, so how much extra do I pay for this extra work that's been done and everything like that? And I take a brief minute and I just, you know, I kind of just stop everything and I just say, you know, technically this is just, you know, this isn't something extra. This is attached to the work that was done before. So I can't, you know, I'm not going to charge you extra for this work that was done because this is part of what I committed to and committed to you on your last visit anyway. So consider this an extension of it. I'm not going to, I can't charge you for it because this is me fulfilling my commitment in the first place.
Yeah.
And the patient was actually kind of blown away, kind of stunned. And she basically said, were I in any other office, they would have charged me for this work that you put in, this extra work that you've been put in, that you've been, you know, that you did today. If they had to do it in another office, they would have probably charged me a significant amount for this extra.
Yep.
And I said, you know, this is me fulfilling my end. You know, I can't just, if I know something's going on, I can't let it go until I'm convinced that it can't get any better. And to her, it spoke volumes. And at the end, you know, at the end of that visit, from putting all that extra work, I didn't make a cent off of that, you know, off of that amount of work, but I still knew that by fulfilling my commitment, which is something that I've struggled with in the past personally, by taking that extra step of fulfilling the commitment, even after that, even going home, I thought to myself, what are other commitments that I haven't fulfilled, and that I should be fulfilling? So it's like I took something that I've been applying purely in the professional setting in the office, And now it's started to find its way into my personal life as well.
Yep. That's great. It's really great. So, and that's what's so interesting is initially it sounds like, wow, lucky patient. But look at what you got out of it, you know, and taking a stand for, again, expanding your integrity, being a person of integrity, honoring your word, and also having a breakthrough and being unreasonable. Really
It was
cool.
definitely not easy.
No, it's not easy. No one said life was supposed to be easy. You know, chicken breaking out of the egg is not easy. You know, but it's an important part of getting, you know, getting life. That's how it is. So great. Thanks for sharing that, Finley. All right. So between now and the next webinar, share with at least 2 people what you're committed to regarding Master NUCCA technique. Anyone do that they want to share about? All right. Notice any procedural limitations or constraint and invent a solution that's fun, lights you up, and excites you. And in a way, Philip, that's what you were sharing about. Anybody else have anything that they'd like to share? I know there was several people that are on the webinar who indicated they'd like to share. Here's your opportunity.
I'd like to share on that. This is Alan Barnes.
Oh, hi, Alan.
Hey, so I started it kind of connects back with the first one, being a person of integrity, and just making sure that I'm gathering all the information I need to, instead of just relying on the leg check and keeping the patient flow going. I committed to myself that I was going to check everyone as far as their posture and making sure that all the bases are checked and covered. And so I noticed that it was, in order to gather that, I was writing a whole lot more. And so that was a procedural limitation. And something that I'm excited to implement is I'm changing the paperwork that I'm using to track so that I can just quickly gather all of that data, and then it's back to the same patient flow, where now I'm still getting the same number of or the same time frame without losing any quality of care. And that was tough to arrive at, and it was just been within the last few days that I finally realized that, hey, I can change this process and make things go a whole lot smoother and up the quality overall.
Oh, that's excellent. That's great. And so you're going to save time, and right? I mean, that's one of the things. All of a sudden, that'll cut time, and you increase the quality. And with that too, then you're able to apply. You know, what I'm thinking is then you get to work at applying your skills in a way that's not being constrained by the fact that we're all obligated to do paperwork.
Right, absolutely. And what I found is by gathering more, I mean, because I started using the Dickholt Senior laser lights,
Okay.
and yeah, just getting the level hips and shoulders, but also recognizing the amount of rotation that comes in and how that plays a role in people holding their adjustment. That was something that I just wasn't getting before.
Oh, got it. Yeah, that rotation is huge. It just makes such a big difference. Well, thanks for sharing that, Alan.
Yeah.
How about the last one? Creating a structure for wholeness in your groups. Anybody take that on? That they'd want to share about? I assume you all take it on. That's the homework. Hello. Come on.
I'd like to share with that. I made some pretty Philip Shallow here.
Oh,
made some.
Welcome back.
Made some what I think are pretty reasonable attempts to create that, and have been met with a thunderous silence. And so I'm kind of stuck there and thinking, okay, I'll just proceed with my own game here. I don't know where the others are, and I don't know how to move forward with that.
Yeah, got it. And that's so it's in a bit of a breakdown. Believe it or not, just from what we talked about, we send out, emails to 53 people, 35 response. It's actually a breakdown. It's not the level of wholeness that we're after. And let's talk about that during the leadership call with, the leaders call, which will be in the next few days. We could take a look at that. And it's interesting, and that's, and that's, here's the value of you sharing that, and that is, there's actions in all of our practices as we're working toward mastery, and as we're taking a stand for, the possibility of mastery in this work and the wholeness of the participants and everything that's taking place at the mastery program. And at times it's going to be looking like it's just going absolutely great, and that's how it is sometimes in your practices. And other times it looks like, nothing I'm doing is working today. And then the question is, where do we go? Where do we go from there? And part of it, and it's actually perfect for this webinar, because while sometimes the question is, what do we do? And there's always things to help understand. There's actions we could take. There's people we could ask. There's a lot of ways to solve something we don't know, right? Some people just go to the web and they look something up, or they call someone. There's all these different ways, if we're not just inventing it on our own. But the main thing is, where is it that we get stuck? Some of you, it'll be submitting your film. Some of you, it'll be getting that reduction down. Some of you, it'll be consistencies and taking in X-ray consistencies between your pre and post. Being stuck in this work. I was stuck earlier this week with my adjusting. I've been stuck on and off with my adjusting as far as having the flow, having the ease that I'm accustomed to, having the strength, the power in the adjustment that I know I'm capable of, that I can't produce, so it's so there's times when we're stuck, so this is really perfect that you bring that up, because we'll be talking about that as we go on, and it just blows me away how fast time goes on this stuff. So we've talked about a little bit already the methodology of the mastery program. It's really speaking for something, not just about something, and we could change that conversation, right now, because right now you're talking about, and it's not a problem, talking about how it's, how it's gone, which is part of, solving it. Now it's, we could speak for something, so that's the difference between on the fields or in the stands, speaking for versus just about. We have terms, there's distinctions. This webinar, we're going to have another distinction. Then, and through the inquiry, I should have reversed those two. Through inquiry, it leads us to discovery. So, that's the nature of the mastery program. And let me see something really quick. Context. All right, principles, got it. All right, so let's talk a little bit about context. So we're just kind of jumping into, and we've touched on context before. It's actually a distinction. So, if you look up context, it says it's a set of circumstance or facts that surround a particular event or situation. We're using context not as something that surrounds facts or events, but something actually that shapes facts and events. It's the context of how we see things. That's why I got the little picture of, looking through rose-colored glasses shapes what it is that you see. And we all have a way that we view not only our capacities, there's this automatic, undistinguished way. It's kind of like Philip talking about, like, the automatic way of that there isn't enough time. And so there's that, that would be a context, right? There's not enough time as a context of viewing and being in life. And it's a default context. It's already there. And we all have something. And while it wasn't in the homework yet, what we might add to the homework is really, identifying for yourself a pre-existing context that you have that shapes the way that you view what it is that you're up to and what you're capable of in the area of certification, in the area of being a master at this work. How is it that you're viewing it? Because unless we're able to discover it and start to identify how it is that we're seeing life, how it is that we see the circumstances around us, if that, basically that is like being on a particular track, and it's going to go in a particular direction whether we like it or not. And our ability to shape the direction that it goes is all context. So with the default context is, it's really the past moving forward in the future. While it may look slightly different, for the most part there's going to be a certain degree of repetition. Creating a context, which is what we're also going to be working on, and then, going over the next few minutes, is creating a context that literally shifts and alters what becomes available in the moment, the way we see things. It shapes the way I'm dealing with what occurs. And what's kind of, you guys got to remember as we go through this stuff, like part of the brain says, okay, I need to learn, I need to listen to what's being said about the difference between a default context and a created context. Default context is what's already there, and moving forward it's going to just be kind of a repeat of the same thing. A created context is, it really comes into what it is that you stand for. And so you could listen to this whole thing as like, okay, this is the stuff I need to learn. But also, you also have to separate yourself out back into, again, one of the aspects of this program is listening for what's being said. So you also have to go, okay, so where is that occurring? It's not just learning the linear knowledge of what's on PowerPoint slides, but it's really being able to take a look and deeply apply it into your lives. And I kind of get that you guys get that, but I just want to bring it up again because it's the nature of human beings. It's what I would be doing. Is, okay, well, this is what I'm going to learn. I'm studying about context versus looking at my life as, oh, where do I have it? What's an already existing context that I have of what's in front of me when I go in the office? What's an existing context I have about my adjusting abilities? What's an existing context about what does adjust? How does my body feel when I'm going into work, and how's it going to feel when I'm leaving work? And so it really applies in all these different ways. And then the last one here is my way of being and acting is automatically and naturally aligned to that context. So if you've got, if you listen to the news, Chicago is this really dangerous area in some of these neighborhoods, and the reality is that Chicago has some dangerous neighborhoods, and there's specific statistics associated to these areas. So you've got a context that if you were to be in these areas or areas that look like it, you could be, afraid. You're going to be non-trusting. You're going to be, you're going to be a particular way. But it's that context, and you could actually be in a neighborhood that you think you're in the neighborhood, and it's like completely different. The people in this neighborhood, even though you haven't met them, are the most generous people on the planet. But your context leaves you being and acting in a particular way based in your view of how it is that you're going into it. And I wish I could, like we had more of a two-way conversation here, but I hope that's making sense. So what we're going to be taking a look at at how our context shapes a thing or event that has power over us. And then one of the goals of and one of the intentions of the mastery program is having mastery, with ease and freedom as the natural expression of yourself. It's not having something else on the to-do list. So where going through certification becomes arduous is with a context with a context that has limitations associated to it. You could actually have a context that seems empowering, like I'm gonna go through certification to prove I could do it, or that to get acknowledgement, to be appreciated, to get that plaque and all these other things. And believe it or not, that context has within it some extreme limitations. It will not leave you free at the end of the day. It might leave you might get certified in it, but it's not going to leave you free and self-expressed, not if who you are, because you have a context that needs to be acknowledged, that you need acknowledgement in your life in order to feel okay. An acknowledgement isn't bad. I'm just saying it just doesn't leave you free. And part of the the nature of this program is that that you're able to participate in this work, be a master in it as a natural expression of yourself. And as a natural expression, there's inherent freedom. So what we've gone over so far in these webinars. So we've looked at the 4 foundational principles of the mastery program. First is integrity, and what I'm going to recommend is you cannot reread that list and that article on integrity enough times. You really, unless you could quote the 6 different areas in which word exists, and I hope you could, but if you can't quote them, if you don't know them like the back of your hand, you don't actually have access to really participating in them fully on a day-to-day basis. And here's the thing about integrity: it's always on its way out, but it's a way of, and a word, my word goes out of existence all the time. But I could reestablish, through integrity, I could reestablish my word and hopefully undo any damage that I caused by not keeping my word. And through reestablishing my word, get something back on track. So that's integrity. So keep practicing that. Authenticity. Again, doing the things for the right reason, again, as natural expression of yourself, gives us access to our own personal freedom. Now, this week, or this webinar, we're going over being given being by something bigger than ourselves. Now, it's kind of a mouthful. Being, so we be a particular way. So prior to this, believe it or not, I am absolutely committed to your success. I'm committed to the program. I'm committed to the outcome and the intention of the program. There's nothing about this program that I am not committed to. But I want you to know, I don't get out of bed with the only thing on my mind is I can't wait to develop another PowerPoint for the mastery program. It's just not the first thing that pops out of my head. Sometimes it's, I can't believe I got to get my ass out of bed. No, I mean, it could be a lot of things, and sometimes it is. I am so excited. I've got an opportunity to be with I'm not sure how many people. I got the opportunity to be with 20 people who are absolutely passionate about growing and being masters in the NUCCA work. That is a phenomenal opportunity. I could be excited about that, but I'm just saying, my being, who I'm being, sometimes I'd like to be the guy sitting on the couch. Sometimes I'd like to be the guy, doing something else, who knows. But my being is given to me by something bigger than myself. We were talking prior to this starting. I'm working on developing getting the Alice Pello company established and out there, and it's taken a lot of work, but a lot of that gets put on a back burner. Certainly, instead of me working on that tonight, I'm doing this tonight. But what I'm committed to, my being on this call, being on this webinar, developing this webinar, all the time that's gone into it, and there's a lot of time that's gone into it, is automatic action, given what it is I'm committed to. And in the area of certification, in the area of what it is that you're passionate about, as you're developing clarity and that future that exists for you, allowing that future to drive your actions is access to having it go a particular way with a certain degree of freedom and ease. So when we're concerned about, we have our own self-concerns. We could become actually very petty. We want to know, believe it or not, my dog's, his belly's been upset, or maybe he's out of alignment. We got to take a look at him. But he's just pooped in the house. I got a call before I came home. Hey, when you get home, you got to clean up the dog poop. And there was actually a couple of weeks ago, before I went to work, I'm not late, I'm gone, I want to get to work, and there's a pile of dog poop. He's actually a good dog. I'm not trying to say he's not a good dog, but he's had a couple of accidents in the house. And my concerns, could be, I can't believe I have to do it, and nevertheless, we just become very petty. My self-interest, well, I don't want to do it, and we could be a particular way, and all of a sudden that could tailor into things. We become reactive. We have a limited view when we're just dealing with small issues of when something doesn't go right, when it's just not going just the way we want it to, the patient's demanding, the subluxation's not correcting, the post-X-ray didn't turn out exactly the way we wanted, and all of a sudden we start to listen to our feelings, our body sensations, and our thoughts, and the only thing that's given being to who we are in that moment is our reactiveness. It goes back into almost the default context of life is a particular way, and I'm going to struggle through it. Versus, when we're committed to something larger, when we have that larger purpose of what's possible for us as masters in this work, what's possible for 53 doctors going through NUCCA board certification in a very short period of time and becoming certified. What's possible for the organization as we expand and grow with a boatload more of teachers, with a boatload more of individuals that are passionately moving the organization forward. That all of a sudden that larger purpose, and we've all seen it, you know what I'm talking about. The question is, how do we have access to it ongoingly where we're able to, that it literally alters who we are in the moment, that produces the actions. When Finley talked about all of a sudden he took on, being unreasonable and functioning out of integrity and taking care of a patient a particular way. Who was present wasn't Finley from the past. Who was present and his actions were being given by something else, something greater than himself. The concept of integrity, the concept of the difference it's going to make for the commitment to the patient is what shaped those actions. And that's what being given being by something greater than ourselves are. It takes the spotlight off of us and it puts that out in the world where that's where our actions actually make a difference. And we never have to, when I first, I think, was exposed to this concept and this thought, the first thing is, yeah, but what about me? I don't like being sacrificial, but the fact is, it's all about us. It's always all about us, but it's us expressed in the world. And that's the difference that it makes. We are not designed to be expressed just within our own skin. It would be a very small life if that's all it were. Our lives are designed, or we have the capacity to be expressed in the world, that we become much bigger people. If all we were our bodies would be very small. But when our actions move out into the world and they start impacting the people around us, and what we stand for is the wholeness. That's what we've talked about, taking on wholeness within your groups, wholeness within the mastery program for all the people that's in it. How big do we become in that moment that's what we're connected to? It's huge. It's massive. It's so much bigger than when we're just dealing with our own concerns or feelings or body sensations or thoughts. The stuff on the left side of the screen becomes easily stoppable. When we're committed to something larger than ourselves, our actions are basically automatic, and they become free-flowing. And that's really that's what we're going to be playing with over the next month. We've got homework associated to that because, again, it's not about just learning the concepts here. It's about how do these concepts get applied in our life and grow our life forward. Both Finley, Alan, and Philip, who shared, did I miss anybody? Their lives are not the same for what they've done, and I know your lives are not the same for what you've done either. But so that's where we're growing is through the homework and through the actions we're taking in between these webinars. The webinars are not here to have you be big. There's no way a webinar or even attending a class on X-ray is going to make you bigger. It might add to the pile, like, here's what I know, but it doesn't make you a bigger person. This is all about expanding who you are out in the world. So the homework for this week, or for this month, is identify where your actions are correlate to a particular context you have. And all this will be online. You'll be emailed to you. So I'll just read that first one again. And identify, some of you are already reading on, so let's stay with it. Identify where your actions are correlate to a particular context that you have. So it's going to be taking a look at what's some of the background already always thinking that goes on with you that shapes your actions. Number two, where and when did you adopt or invent that way of seeing and acting? It'll be interesting for you to take a look at. And when you're able to do that, you'll find that that context that occurred and got set up in the past actually gets left in the past, and it gives you room to create a context for the future that leaves you free and empowered. So number three, invent a context that is correlate to a future you are creating. And, no, those three. So number four is, what are you standing for that's worthy of your life? Write it down, share it with at least 2 people in addition to your group. So what are you standing for that's worthy of your life? What are you committed to that you're willing to allow that to give you being to where your actions are a natural correlate to that vision? Any questions? We could still, we got, can I have one question from somebody? What's opening up? What would make a difference for you? Come on, folks. You guys are the leaders here. You got to hit unmute and move your lips. Okay, maybe you're all muted and I don't understand the process. All right, so I'll just keep going. And I hope, again, I don't have a measure of how that's resonating with people. So next month's webinar, number 4, will be on June 23rd at 8 p.m. Central. We're going to have a group of leaders call next Tuesday. And, oh, yeah, I just saw somebody that can't unmute. I'm not sure. Mary Pat, is she still there?
No, I got it.
Okay.
Hello?
Yes.
Hello, it's Michael Rosmano.
Hi,
no,
Michael.
I just wanted to, first, in trying to get, I'm one of the group leaders and trying to get the groups going. We finally had one-on-ones with everybody, and in that process, it just, it's striking me just how much is coming together with this program, even though there's maybe a light load tonight. But kind of the stand that you're taking for this program, and and how it's kind of popped out of nowhere, and how, in talking with the doctors that I'm working with in our group, they're getting clarity and making progress. Unfortunately, none of them were on the call. One communicated that ahead of time, and so he had a previous commitment that he couldn't make it, but he's still going to review everything and stay in integrity there. But overall, just how this is forming and the vision you're creating, and I really appreciate all you're doing and trying to bring some clarity to our growth in this process. So thank you.
Oh, well, thanks, Michael. And I'm glad it's opening up. And here's something too. I've talked to all the group leaders. As far as I know, my understanding is all the group leaders have been in contact with everybody. I've had a chance to also talk to a number of different participants who were kind of like missing, MIA, and they're all doing great. So, my sense is the wholeness within all the participants is it's actually pretty strong. But yet we're just not really good at responding to our emails yet as a group. But yeah, my sense is that people are really in an outstanding shape. If anything I said painted a different picture, that wasn't my intention. But I would like to be able to, again, just keep turning it up and turning it up. And then the last part, or last thing I want to say here is everyone support your group. Be in communication. It's not for you. Those of you who are group leaders, keep going after your folks and supporting them in the way that makes a difference to them. And next is, if you're not a group leader, find out how to support your group leader. Make a difference. you're in this together. Let's all make a let's make a difference for one another, because what we stand for is the exact same thing. Everyone's on the exact same mission, and the enormity of it is it's not out of our reach, and it's right there for us. So right now, according to the clock I have on my wall, and if I hit my phone over here, my phone says 9:02. The clock on the wall says 9. So thank you all very much for taking time out of your evenings to be on the webinar. I love you all, and I hope, and I really look forward to this continuing to make a difference for you, and look forward to probably talking to some of you, and then, certainly between now and the next webinar. And if anyone on this webinar needs any support in any way, shape, or form, give me a call, and I will do whatever I can to kind of help create an opening or an easier path for you that would make a difference in your development and expression of your life in this work. So thank you very much. This kind of brings this webinar to a close, and we'll talk to you all soon. Thank you.